Welcome to the Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce Education Committee Network's PAC 14 TV show, Education is Everybody's Business. My name is Ladd Colston. I am a business member of the Chamber and the CEO of Sustainable Visions, LLC. Today, we will examine the fourth in a series of informative PAC 14 TV shows focusing on Eastern Shore concerns that matter. This fourth episode will feature the educational topic, Career Apprenticeship Success Stories. How do they really work? Sponsored by the Community Foundation of the Eastern Shore, Chamber CEO Bill Chambers, and our Education Committee Network members want this TV show to be a source of community awareness and knowledge of topics that impact education and workforce development here on Maryland's Lower Eastern Shore. We appreciate you listening and providing us with your feedback on its usefulness. And please subscribe if you're viewing this show on YouTube, and give a thumbs up if you like it. Now let's ask the question, what is a registered apprenticeship? Apprenticeship USA states that a registered apprenticeship program, or RAP, Registered Apprenticeship Program, is an industry-driven, high-quality career pathway where employers can develop and prepare their future workforce. Individuals can obtain paid work experience with a mentor and receive progressive wage increases, classroom instruction, and a portable, nationally recognized credential. Whew. Registered apprenticeships are also industry vetted and are approved and validated by the U.S. Department of Labor or a state apprenticeship agency. Please note that a registered apprenticeship is different from any other types of training programs in 5 different ways. Let me spell these out. Number 1, it's industry-led. Number 2, it's a paid job. Number 3, it's structured on-the-job learning. That's like 2,000 hours. Number 4, it's supplemental education up to 144 hours per year. And 5, it provides a portable, nationally recognized credential within the industry. That is just truly phenomenal. Also, did you know that 94% of apprentices who complete a registered apprenticeship retain employment and, get this, earn an average annual salary of $84,000. Our governor, the Honorable Wes Moore, has fully endorsed the implementation of registered apprenticeship programs by inviting employers from every industry in every corner of the state to take the Governor's Apprenticeship Pledge and help create a competitive Maryland economy, building new talent for its businesses. It is worth noting that the Honorable Governor Wes Moore recently signed Senate Bill 431, which incentivizes companies to establish apprenticeship programs. The Maryland Department of Labor has established the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Program, which encompasses 13 local workforce development areas across the state. Each workforce development area is supported by a local workforce development board, which uses guidance and leadership from local private industry to identify skill shortages and cultivate relationships between workers and employers. On this show, we are pleased to feature Mr. Christopher McLarian, State Director of the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Program. In our Lower Shore region, we have an assigned apprenticeship navigator who collaborates with the Maryland Department of Labor to co-design programs tailored to the unique needs of Wicomico, Worcester, and Somerset counties. Our navigator is Miss Alicia Dennis, and we will feature her on this show. Lastly, what local business employer from our region offers a registered apprenticeship and can attest to its effectiveness as a business investment? We will talk with Ms. Georgetta L. Wainwright, who is employed by Delaware Elevator as their education and compliance manager. Together, we will interview Mr. John Vilkas, a graduate apprentice and now a certified mechanic at Delaware Elevator. So let's get started. I am pleased to introduce to our viewers Mr. Christopher D. McLarian, Director of the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Program, Maryland Department of Labor, Maryland State Archives. Welcome to our show. I got a few questions for you, and I just thank you for being a part of this show. For our viewers, could you please take a few minutes to share your primary role and function as the director of our state apprenticeship and training program?
I'm happy to do that. And Dr. Colson, again, thank you for having us here today. Thank you for spending the time with us. I also want to thank you for spending time with us at our Apprenticeship Training Council meeting earlier this week on Tuesday down in beautiful Salisbury. It was great to have you there. I know that was a long meeting, took a couple hours, but I hope you were as excited as we were that you got to see 50 new employers enter the registered apprenticeship and the youth apprenticeship system, as well as several new programs be approved for apprenticeship across the state. So it was an exciting meeting. Now to your question and point. So my role as the director of the Apprenticeship Training Program is to help manage our state system. Maryland is what is known as a state apprenticeship agency, and that is important because we are approved at the state level to manage all the affairs of apprenticeship across the state on behalf of the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Apprenticeship. And we've been doing that in Maryland since 1962. My individual role as the director of the program is to manage a team of 26 counting myself, highly skilled apprenticeship professionals, and they're situated all across our state with navigators in almost every single county and within every single workforce area. Our roles, to include my role in overseeing the program, is to help expand high-quality registered apprenticeship programs throughout a host of different occupations and industries. You may be familiar with apprenticeship as a construction-based program with our electricians and plumbers, but it has really expanded dramatically since then. And while construction still has some 80% of our apprentices across the state, we now have apprentices in IT, we have apprentices in cybersecurity, we have apprentices in healthcare, and we have apprentices in a host of other occupations, such as teachers, that are continuing to grow and scale across the state. Part of our role is to continue to add more of those occupations, more of those industries, and to continue to work with as many partners as possible to include local workforce areas, community colleges, high schools, associations, unions, and nonprofits all across our state. And as part of that, to grow and scale apprenticeship everywhere. I'm happy to add more if there's anything I missed, sir, and thank you again.
Well, it was a pleasure attending the council meeting, and as an observer, it was just fantastic to just see the number of businesses that have applied for approval and the approval process, and to see that in operation was fantastic. For our viewers, how many actual industry vetted registered apprentices do we have across the 13 local workforce areas in Maryland? And if you will, what are some of those high skill, high demand occupations? You did allude to cybersecurity and healthcare and some of the others, but for our viewing audience, how many industry vetted apprentices do we have across our state?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And it's a great question. And it's one of the ones I think that my staff and I like to answer the most, especially because we're proud of the growth of this of the apprenticeship program within the state of Maryland. As of today, we have well over 12,300 apprentices spread out across the state. And we have apprentices in every single county plus Baltimore City, so all 24 of our jurisdictions, which obviously also, to your point, is all 13 of our local workforce areas. And that's a significant increase from even back in 2016 when we were sitting somewhere around 7,300 apprentices. So we've nearly doubled that total. And that doesn't include the over 1,000 youth apprentices that we have registered within our system through our local high school partners, the Maryland State Department of Education, and the Maryland Department of Labor. So that's another 1,000 students that are gaining apprenticeship experience while they're still in high school. And you asked about occupations and what's in high demand. And I think that's a great question, too, for no matter where we are in the state of Maryland, but especially on the shore, especially on Maryland's beautiful eastern shore. I think it's a really pointed question because demand has a little bit of parity, in my opinion, for some occupations. Electricians are still very much in high demand, as are plumbers and carpenters and steam fitters. But some of those other high demand occupations we're seeing, we have high demand from the job seeker looking for occupations within IT, within cybersecurity, or healthcare, teachers, some of the ones I mentioned a little bit earlier, a growth in culinary, in management for restaurant and hospitality facilities. And we're seeing that growth in the demand occur, sometimes greater on the employer side and sometimes greater on the job seeker side. But as they come together, we're seeing that growth across those industries. And I suspect, and the data kind of shows us this, that we're going to continue to see the non-traditional, which for this conversation is the non-construction programs, continue to grow all across our state, to include all across the Eastern Shore.
Now, tell me something. With over the number of apprentices across the state is huge. But for our viewing audience, and I want to focus on success stories, what industry businesses have you witnessed, maybe even recently, as quote-unquote success stories across Maryland?
Yeah, and so I said, I tend to think, or I might say sometimes of a lot of favorites. I am going to change my mind and say that this is my favorite piece. Because registered apprenticeship programs they're an investment, right? They're an investment from the employer in the terms of the funding and the time and the energy they spend to train and bring an apprentice up to the system to make them a highly skilled worker. It's an investment from our apprentice too, of course, right? To learn the job, to learn the industry, to stay with that employer. And the data shows as part of that success that it's working. I'll mention that in a minute. But it's also an investment from the educational partners that are helping to make sure the education is there for that apprentice. But at the end, we have a product, right? We have a skilled worker. And this is my favorite because we're graduating not hundreds, but thousands of apprentices a year. For the second year in a row, Maryland's graduated over 2,000 apprentices, which is 3 times as much as we were graduating just a few years ago. And it's an incredible number. But what I really want to focus on is the people. And you asked about success stories. I really strongly encourage the viewers, go to the Maryland Department of Labor's website, go to the Division of Workforce Development and Adult Learning site. And there's a whole tab on success stories. And I encourage you to read all of them, but there's a whole tab for apprenticeship. And I want to just give you a couple real quick, sir, because I think they're important. Without using the full name, you'll see them on our website. We had an individual who was formerly incarcerated. He spent a little over 2 decades in prison. I say a little over, it's closer to 25 years. I shouldn't short that gentleman the time that he spent in the facility. But what I can say, and I've met him several times, when he graduated, he went down to the Iron Workers Union and joined their apprenticeship program. He spent 4 years in that program learning to be an iron worker, and he graduated. And that there's a connection point here for where you're sitting today and for this story, beyond just the fact that this gentleman has turned his entire life around. He has a career. He's an iron worker, but he bought his first house just 2 years ago on Maryland's Eastern Shore. And he's still an iron worker, and he took that investment of his time and the earnings that his employer invested in him and bought a home on the Eastern Shore. There was a second story that I think is really poignant to us. And Dr. Colson, again, I am thrilled that you were at our meeting because I know you'll recognize this story, and I hope that it moved you a little bit too. Is just a few weeks ago, we had an apprentice still in the program, but he was invested in by his employer. They sent him to not just his school training, but also to CPR and first aid. And that paid dividends immediately. Now, dividends can be financial, but in this case, it's human. This apprentice on a job, his mentor had a cardiac event and he would have passed away. But instead, our apprentice sprung into action, using the training he had just learned, began to deliver pulmonary resuscitation to the gentleman, to his mentor, kept him alive while he used his other hand to call 911 and give them all of the needed information to respond. Not only did the mentor live, he was able to come to our meeting on Tuesday and present him with a thank you plaque, and the council was able to recognize him as well. And that is a success, not just for the graduate, but we have a life that has been saved through high quality training. I think, I'd like to give you one more, and these are on our site, and I'll be a little broad with this one, but apprenticeship touches everybody, or it has the potential to touch everybody. No matter where we live, no matter where we're from, no matter what occupation we have, if our employers come together to bring high quality job training with education, we produce the best product in the United States, if not the world. And I firmly believe that. But there's a whole tab on our website where there's several stories about individuals who are new to the United States. Maybe they were first generation Americans, or they were brand new arrivals to the United States that went through a high quality training. And you'll see that they bought their first home, that they've started their career path, all as a result of an apprenticeship program. So those are successes of people for their employer, for their community, and for the great state of Maryland, frankly. But it's also something else, is when we look at the success stories of apprentices, there is a dollar and cents value. And the Federal Department of Labor, did a study, and they said approximately $1.47 is returned to the employer for every dollar they invested in an apprenticeship program. And that's really compounded by the fact that the study goes on to tell us that somewhere around 93 or 94% of all graduates of our apprenticeship programs are with their employers at least a year later. And we know they tend to be there much longer than a year. So those investments turn into success for the employers because we're returning that dividend back to them as well. And I think it's a holistic process. And again, thank you for being there to see that story on Tuesday. I think it was very powerful.
It was a very, very powerful story, and I was so impressed, and I went, wow. So for our viewers, and I'm really focusing on the businesses as well as the community colleges, as well as the colleges across the board, to understand and have an appreciation for this apprenticeship training program. It is phenomenal. And just to observe the return on investment, not only for the business that applies and gets their apprentice program registered, but also those that go into that program and how they benefit. So it's a win-win situation. I'm not going to keep you, but I have one more question. And I really want to focus on the businesses that may be interested, especially here on the Lower Eastern Shore, that are not registered. And that is, please help them to understand how this apprenticeship application and placement process works, as well as who can qualify as an apprentice. Are there particular businesses or particular fields, or is it across the board?
Yeah. And this is maybe the question I've been waiting for at the end is how do we all get involved, and how do we leave nobody in Maryland behind? And also, how do we lift up the community and lift up our own employers and produce the most highly skilled worker, again, not just in the state of Maryland, but frankly, in the entire country. And it's not a complicated process, so I'm glad you asked. And I'm going to start with the end of your question, and I'm going to work backwards. Is who can qualify as an apprentice? Essentially, almost anybody. There is no real age restriction. You have to be legally old enough to work. We have a growing number of high school students, 16 and 17 years old, that are beginning their apprenticeship programs. I've also seen individuals in their 60s begin to start an apprenticeship program, career changers. Many people change industries. There could be an impact at a job that you're working, and you start back over through an apprenticeship program. I just saw a carpenter graduate several years ago decide he wanted to be an electrician. He's now in an electrical program. So, it's fluid, and you can change career paths, and apprenticeship opens the door for you. And I would encourage everybody to look at that and don't think there's a limitation on you as a person, whether you can or can't join, because it is truly open for everybody. And there can be some minimum qualifications, such as having a high school diploma or the ability to get to and from a job site. But broadly speaking, it really is open to everybody. Now, the application process, there's so many ways to participate in apprenticeship programs. You can start off, maybe you want to touch the waters a little bit or sample the waters, test the waters, is uh, join our youth apprenticeship program, working with our high school students and working with the Maryland State Department of Education and the Maryland Department of Labor. We have to bring you into the system where you can hire a high school student who's working part-time for a few hundred hours over the course of their junior and senior year. They get an industry recognized credential. They get to sample their career space. They get to sample the industry. And hopefully it's a mutually assured connection. And at the graduation point, that youth apprentice continues on in employment with you. Maybe it wasn't a perfect match, and the apprentice now makes the educated decision to go to college or the military or to join public service, and that's still a win. That same employer could choose to start their own apprenticeship program. And if they go to, and it's a very simple connection for us, you go to mdapprenticeship.com, you'll go right into our website, and you can connect immediately with us. But maybe you're an employer and you want to have your own program. One of our navigators, who I think you'll be talking to shortly, can help you to build that program, help to develop the standards of apprenticeship for you. Put those together with your industry, basically what's approved by your industry for on-the-job training and education, and we can get your program registered in no time. Maybe you're a smaller employer and you really don't want to manage your own program. That's okay too. There's a host of group of programs, and these group programs help to manage it for you as an employer. We have group programs with community colleges, with associations such as the Associated Builders and Contractors or the Independent Electrical Contractors. We have associations that are unionized, like the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and they have apprenticeship programs for their members. So there's a way for you to assimilate as an employer into any style of apprenticeship program if you want to participate. And then for placement, all you have to do is hire. And if you're hiring, it's our pleasure to help you work with our local school systems, with the local workforce development areas, our American Job Centers, to help you get candidates that will fill those positions for you. And what I will close with, and this has been very exciting for us, is that as I talk to our apprenticeship programs, we ask them, what does your application intake look like? Are you getting responses for the openings that you have? I've asked this a question year after year, Dr. Colson. And at the beginning, they had a fair return. They would get 10 applicants for maybe 6 or 7 positions. We have programs that are getting hundreds, if not thousands of applicants for their open positions. And it makes it a really competitive process. So if you're an employer looking, this is an avenue into it. But it's also a way for you to say, I want to be part of a highly, vetted and high quality apprenticeship program so I can get those applicants to me as well and increase the demand from the employer side for more apprentices. So I really appreciate that last question and encourage everybody to visit our website. We're more than happy to help integrate you into the system.
Well, we're going to put that website on our show, and it's for our viewers to please check it out. I can't thank you for your time. I can't thank you enough for your participation and support, and I wish you continued success across the state of Maryland.
Thank you, Dr. Colson. I wish you the same. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's now peek at the businesses that have taken the governor's pledge and are providing apprenticeship opportunities here on the Lower Eastern Shore. And to do that, I've invited Miss Alicia Dennis, who's currently serving as our Lower Shore Regional Apprenticeship Navigator for Wycomico, Worcester, and Somerset counties. I can't say welcome enough. We really appreciate you taking the time to be on this show and sharing with us the information that only you have. So we'll start off by asking, how many businesses do you currently have listed and approved, or registered, if you will, within our 3 Lower Shore counties?
Yep, that's a great question. I just want to thank you so much for having me. It's just great to be a local navigator serving our businesses here in the 3 lower counties. So to answer your question, currently I have 12 active sponsors covering the Lower Eastern Shore, and 2 of them actually neighbor our state in Delaware. And so they span from, of course, traditional trades for HVAC, plumbing, HVAC, to even those non-traditional trades like your automotive technician, apprenticeship opportunities, or becoming a child care development associate apprentice as well. And so we're just making sure that we open the doors for and expand apprenticeship opportunities in those non-traditional trades as well. And I would like to add that I am one of 2 apprenticeship navigators here serving the Eastern Shore. So I serve the lower 3 counties, and I have a counterpart that serves the upper 5 counties. So we work together to grow our apprenticeship market, promote and advocate for apprenticeship opportunities.
That is fantastic. I did not know that. Wow. And I didn't know that early childhood actually provided apprenticeships.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So we have
Wow.
an amazing sponsor, Child Care Center,
Yes.
actually a Night Watch Child Care Center, and very passionate about helping individuals and apprentices have those opportunities within. So that was one of my first sponsors when I onboarded a year ago in this position as we expanded our team, and we're strategically located throughout all the counties and jurisdictions in Maryland, just so that we can be rooted in our area, be responsive to our employers, and really just have someone that's local. Because when you think about the state, you think about, especially for the far corners like, the Eastern Shore, Western, Southern, then it's just so far and in between, but we're right here in the community, so I'm glad to be here.
That is fantastic. And for our viewers, just to note, okay, Night Watch is one of the members of our Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce Education Committee Network.
Yes,
So
amazing.
congrats to Night Watch. Tell me, have you witnessed any quote-unquote success stories thus far that have benefited the business offerer as well as the trainee themselves? And if so, do you have a couple you would like to share?
Yes, most recently, the town of Berlin, they graduated 2 of their apprentices. One was from their alignment apprenticeship program, and then one was from their utility meter technician.
Wow.
He graduated as well. So that was a very rigorous program right there in that municipality of the town of Berlin. And other sponsors that I can think about are Delaware Elevator, for example, and then you have Pohanka Automotive. And you also have Seaside Plumbing, and they're unique in that they have youth apprentices that start 16, 17, juniors and seniors. They get that experience right there at the high school level. They get their related instruction at the school. They get their hands-on experience at those employers. And then upon graduation, they have the option, and they have opted to continue that pathway right straight to that adult apprenticeship program. And that's very powerful, and that's very successful because the employer is tapping into the school system for that pipeline, and then they're seeing that return on investment of those students that are staying with them. And we heard about the 93, 94% retention rate. And so we're seeing that, and it's just very exciting and that's very successful that I wanted to highlight.
It's amazing. We're taking career and tech education to a whole nother level.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how a high school student can take on a career interest, go into career tech ed, and while they're there, apply for and get accepted as an apprentice in a business here locally. Even before graduation, they're already on track to become a certified professional with a salary. It's just totally amazing to me. And so I'm hoping our viewers are taking note of the effectiveness of this apprenticeship training program and how it's operating just here locally and across the state of Maryland.
And I'd love to add to what you just said, if I may, that they are graduating with little to no debt. And that's an investment, for the employer, and that's definitely something that I would have definitely looked into if the opportunity was here when I was finishing up high school looking for opportunities. And so that's very exciting to note as well.
Wow. Well, I know you're busy, and I'm not going to keep you, but lastly, I have a question. If a regional business here on the Lower Eastern Shore or beyond is interested in establishing or offering an apprenticeship training program, what should they do and whom should they contact?
Absolutely. They should definitely contact their local apprenticeship navigator. If you do go to our website, we do have all the locators that they can have access to via email. That's the best way to get up with us because we're always on the road. We're always constantly promoting and building and providing that technical support. So my email address, I can just give it, and it can also be on our website, but it's Alicia, ALICIA.Dennis, DENNIS, @maryland.gov. And I'm more than happy to just see if apprenticeship is a strategic and a beneficial workforce strategy for the business. So we give you all the information. And on top of that, and on that same note, I like to tell you about what our team has been doing just to promote and bring awareness to apprenticeship opportunities, to the job seeker and also to the businesses. And so we have a series of informational sessions to the businesses. So if they want to learn about apprenticeship opportunities, 30-minute webinars that they can jump onto, they can go right to our website. They can sign up for any webinar that they, for their availability. And so, for example, the job seeker also has opportunities as well. So they can also hop on and see if, how can they find out about apprenticeship opportunities. We have industry spotlight. So if you're in a specific industry, you want to see how that works, then go onto our website. So we have a lot of educational trainings and that are available that fit into your busy schedule. So you can either do that and definitely reach out to me as well.
Fantastic. I hope everybody is listening, okay, and looking at these slides and taking the opportunity to look into this. This is fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right, absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, without question. Wish you much success.
Thank you.
Viewers, it gives me great pleasure to introduce one of our state-sponsored business apprentices, an eligible employer for youth apprenticeship in multiple counties in Maryland, along with the person who currently makes it happen. Welcome to our show. Let me introduce to everyone Miss Georgetta L. Wainwright, the Education and Compliance Manager at Delaware Elevator, headquartered here in Salisbury, Maryland. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you, and I thank you so much. Got a few questions for you, okay? The first one, as a business employer, how difficult, if you can recall, was the process to become a state-approved employer or business for youth apprenticeship? And how long did the approval process take?
Delaware Elevator was pretty much one of the first businesses here on the Eastern Shore to become an eligible employer. We submitted the application to the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Council in May of 2021. And during the MATSI meeting, which is the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Council, in July, we were already approved. Now, there is, of course, the application. There are supporting documents that you have to submit, including related instruction. But because we had more than 20 years already having an approved register apprenticeship program, we were pretty much easier to get along with the state and get the supporting materials needed. We knew what we were doing pretty much.
All right.
So our youth apprenticeship program started in 2021. And since then, we are happy to say we had 2 apprentices, youth apprentices, graduate with Delaware Elevator. The last one was actually this year on Tuesday, and he received his certificate from the Maryland Apprenticeship and Training Council.
And if I might add, that was a Parkside High School graduate?
That was actually a Bennett
High School graduate.
Yes, and the first apprentice was a Y-High graduate. So we work closely with all the schools, local schools here in Salisbury, but we extended our relationship with schools from Somerset County, Worcester County, and Prince George County. So we don't just work with Wycomico County, but we do have to mention Miss Allison Cornish with Wycomico County. She is an excellent communicator. She's excellent with pushing the students to work with different businesses and helping them to find the right source for them and the right candidates for us.
That is excellent. That is outstanding. So tell me, I think you indicated already, well, no. How many apprentices does Delaware Elevator offer and accept annually? And
Now,
what training and certification opportunities are currently available?
we talked about the youth apprenticeship. We also have the 4-year register apprenticeship program, federally approved register apprenticeship program.
Wow.
And in the youth apprenticeship, we had the two, but in the regular apprenticeship, adult apprenticeship, which can be right after graduation of high school actually, we currently have about 45 register apprentices. I just submitted 5 more this morning.
Wow.
So we are looking at about 50 register apprentices a year. We graduate about 7 to 10 a year. Now, we do have to maintain a ratio of 1 to 1 in the state of Maryland, and sometimes 4 to 1, which means 1 mechanic to 1 apprentice. So we're a little bit limited of how many apprentices we can register. But we continue to grow our program on a yearly basis. Now, what I can also say that our training starts right after orientation. We have a 3-day orientation in which the candidates receive, and new employees receive full protection training, rigging, forklift, CPR and AED certifications based on that training. We have our field employees, future apprentices, any mechanics, do the OSHA 30 construction right in the probationary period in the 90 days with us.
Obviously, have you found being a state-registered career apprenticeship program a cost-effective business decision?
We actually did use a lot of the state tax credits. We also used Maryland Business Work applications and grants. So there is a process, of course, with all of these. You have to stay current with the apprenticeship program. You have to be consistent. You have to do the work.
Yes.
But there are definitely benefits. And we realize and we encourage any businesses, local businesses, to do the process because you are pretty much streamlining your own employees. You are actually building your own workforce, and it is very efficient and it's a good practice for us. We also got the GI Bill benefits for our apprentices, and we are Valor approved, which means our veterans can get their benefits based on the zip code they live in. And that pretty much doesn't offset our costs, but it helps the apprentices getting additional sources of income from GI Bill benefits.
And what I noticed too, that Delaware Elevator is beyond just the Eastern Shore. I was under the impression that Delaware Elevator only operated here on the lower shore, but I was mistaken.
That is correct. We have offices, the corporate offices are in Salisbury, Maryland, but we do have field employees and offices in Wilmington, Delaware. We have in Laurel, in Maryland, across the bridge. We go into South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida.
Wow.
So we're pretty much all over the place. We do have the Marine Division, which operates on oil rigs and stuff like that. We have international division, so there is a growth. Our mechanics actually continue their education. They do 10 hours of continuing education every year, and that way we keep track and we maintain the needed resources for our company, having field employees that are properly trained.
Wonderful. That is fantastic. Oh, I can't thank you enough. And I really appreciate you bringing one of your success stories, who we are going to interview shortly thereafter.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have an actual apprentice in the office today on the show. And so his name is Mr. John Vilkas, and he is an apprentice graduate and an experienced mechanic at Delaware Elevator here in Salisbury, Maryland. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to have you. For those of you that are out there listening, especially if you're a high school CTE student, listen up. John, please tell us, if you will, how you found out about this apprenticeship opportunity and why you selected it.
Well, I had a friend that was working at Delaware Elevator, and he had mentioned the apprenticeship program. And the first thing I did was I went on Google and I looked up elevator mechanic.
Okay.
So I quickly found out that the elevator mechanic wages were a lot higher than a lot of other trades. So when I went to CTE at Parkside, my goal was to find the highest paid trade.
Okay.
So I took electrical. And then when I graduated high school, I found out about this, and I looked that up, and that paid even more. So I took what I learned in the electrical program from CTE. I figured it'd be a good fit, and I'd make a good amount of money doing it.
Mm-hmm. And it has panned out that
Oh yeah,
way.
I've done pretty well.
So tell us, what did you learn from the experience, and how are you benefiting from the training and experience you received at Delaware Elevator?
Well, I've learned a lot. I've gotten to take several different certifications like rigging, welding, obviously up to the CET, which teaches you, I feel like it's the jack of all trades. You get to learn you get to be very well-rounded.
As a mechanic,
Yeah,
it's
like I
not
said,
just one single job every hour,
no,
every day.
you do some carpentry, steel work, like I said, welding, very, very precise measurements. It takes a lot of training to be efficient in what you do with organization, pre-planning. There's a lot of thought that goes into it, which they also teach you along the way, along with the program.
Yeah, and what I like is that with Delaware Elevator, you were able to kind of move around. You weren't just stuck here in Salisbury, Maryland. Tell us about a particular trip you ended up going south with.
Yeah, well, I decided I wanted to do something different, and moved to Florida. And I asked the company, hey, if I moved to Florida, I know you have an office down there. Could I possibly work down there? And they said yes. So I took the opportunity and got to meet a lot of new people, and eventually moved back. But I had fun doing it.
So where were you in Florida?
Southern Florida. I did a lot of work in Miami,
Okay.
which was cool. It was different.
Well, I'm not going to keep you, but I did want to ask you, for those who are interested in a career, especially a particular career path, you've taken the career path through Delaware Elevator. And so moving forward, as we go into the future, do you have a 5-year or 10-year plan for yourself?
So I've had the opportunity here to take a lot of leadership classes, where I've actually been from a mechanic to a foreman on multi-elevator projects, which has taught me a lot. And now that I'm more a seasoned mechanic, I've had the opportunity to take the vertical transportation management program. And when I complete that, my 5-year plan is to be into management, where I can pass on my skills to other apprentices and mechanics.
Excellent.
Try to keep growing with the company.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That is outstanding. So there's nothing like being in a position with a business that's growing and helping to make that grow, and you grow in accordance with that.
Well, I quickly saw the opportunities as from where I started to now. The amount of growth I saw was substantial.
Wonderful.
So I took every opportunity I had to try to keep climbing the ladder.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and being what we would like to see as a success story. And it's without question that you are a success story. Came through Wycomico County, Parkside High School, and you have taken on the apprenticeship program. You have found a career, and you got a 5 or 10-year plan. Can't ask for anything more than that. Thank you so much. Wish you best wishes for much success as you move forward.
Thank you.
As we close out this informative episode, I would like to personally and professionally thank everyone for their time and support. Well, this brings us to a close for episode 4 of our Year 3 season, where we continue to explore and discuss shore concerns that matter. Please tune in as we present our 5th episode of Shore Concerns That Matter with the topic, the mission of our community foundation of the Eastern Shore, connecting people that care. Until then, remember, education is everybody's business.